The cherry tree is one of the most impressive, not only because of its height, which can reach up to 15 meters, but also because of its beautiful flowers that we can see in spring. But what Jose most likes about this tree are the cherries itself, an incredibly delicious fruit which is also full of antioxidants. It's interesting to know that the cherry tree takes 5 years to produce fruit. Since all good things come to those who wait, Jose is going to share in this video 5 golden rules for successfully planting and growing your cherry tree to be able to enjoy its delicious fruit. Here we have one piece of advice for every year it takes the tree to become productive.
Salgo, los días oscuros se van con el sol radiante. Cultivo algo puro, no entiendo de conservantes. Comida en abundancia, pero con toque exquisito. Ponte otro vídeo pa' que abras el apetito.
Rule number 1, fertilize your tree. It doesn't matter if your tree is just 1 year old or 10, you need to feed it. At the beginning of each spring, you can provide your tree nutrients in the form of organic compost, spreading it in the soil in a surface area equivalent to the crown of the tree itself. Remember, when we talk about the crown of the tree, we mean the top part of the tree which features branches that grow out from the main trunk. As you can see Jose is doing in our video, it's important to leave a gap between the compost and the tree trunk to avoid damage in the bark or the roots closest to the surface. Be aware also that the bigger the tree is, the further the roots are from the trunk. You want to encourage that root growth, so that's why it's also important to leave that space between the trunk and where you place the fertilizer, as you can see here in the video, in the hands of our expert Jose.
Por lo que debemos abonar con una cierta separación para asegurarnos que cuando llueve o cuando reguemos, lo que se filtra, el nutriente que se filtra, va directamente a una zona cercana a la raíz.
Rule number 2. Protect your tree from plagues of insects or animals such as cows, sheep, etc., who can have a special appetite for its leaves or fruit. Jose uses a fence that can either be electrified or not. This is a way of separating the area where the trees are from where the animals feed. If you see a small hole or gap in the trunk from which wood chips or sawdust appears, you can use a wire or a fine needle to eliminate the insect inside. Rule number 3. Attracting pollinators such as bees to your garden is one way of guaranteeing that the flowers of the tree will turn into big and tasty cherries. Do you know what Jose's secret is? Near your tree, you need to grow flowering shrubs such as rose or lavender. Rule number 4. This is probably the most difficult. The 4th piece of advice is to protect your cherries that are ripening on the trees from birds that want to eat. You need to hang shiny ribbons or CDs from the branches, or place a homemade scarecrow near your tree. These are just some ideas that can help. Please leave a comment on this video if you have any more tips that can help Jose and the rest of you with your harvesting of fruit. And then, finally, the most important rule. The last thing you need to know so your cherry tree grows correctly is that you must prune it. Cutting the branches, when done correctly, is important so that the growth and fruit and vegetation is balanced. Jose has asked a lot about the best time of year to prune your cherry tree, and here it's important to know that you mustn't cut your branches in winter. The tree in winter is a period of stagnation in which sap doesn't circulate. For this reason, the cuts you make can take a long time to scar, and the tree risks developing fungus. In summer, when it's hot, the tree loses a lot of sap in the areas where the tree is cut, which can dehydrate and dry out some of the branches. For this reason, the cherry trees are pruned at the beginning of spring, making small cuts to balance the growth of the branches, which heal better in this time of year. You can also do a second trim after collecting the ripe fruit. Here we apply the same general rules for pruning, eliminating dry or damaged branches, branches that are growing downwards, branches that are too vertical, or branches that are going towards the inside of the tree trunk, hindering the growth of others.
La poda correcta de nuestro cerezo la realizaremos a principios de la primavera. Realizaremos una poda ligera.
Here in a moment, Jose is going to show us a practical example of how to prune a tree. Pay close attention to it because he's going to reduce the tree top so the cherries grow in the next years in the lower areas where the harvest is easier to reach. Obviously easier, even much more practical for everybody. This type of trimming is done bit by bit, and it's not recommendable to cut more than a third, to cut more than a third of the crown of the tree in a single day of trimming. So please, don't go overboard with your tree pruning. This could be a problem. In the video, watch how Jose selects the branches he's going to cut for their vertical growth and their thickness. By cutting them, the tree maintains a more uniform structure, with the weight and the size of the branches shared out in a more uniform way. If the tree is very big, you need to trim it a lot. You can do this over 2 years, in spring of each year, to avoid there being too much damage to the cherry tree. Remember, pruning needs to be done with moderation and always bit by bit. To cut the tree, you must use tools that are clean and have been disinfected to avoid disease entering the tree through the cuts. Just the same as for us, hygiene is key in tree surgery. Every time you cut a large branch, it's important to remember what the tree looks like before you continue cutting, to avoid one part of the tree being bigger than the other. So you cut and then you check, cut, and then take another look. This will avoid nasty surprises and odd-shaped trees at the end of the process. The thicker branches must remain in the lower part of the tree so that new growth of flowers and fruit take place in the lower part of the tree, which is more accessible from the soil. The cuts must be clean to avoid damaging the tree. So if you're going to cut very big branches, you mustn't do it alone. Having somebody with you to help is always a good idea. This will avoid branches being broken and also avoid you getting hurt while you're working. So make sure you have a neighbour, a friend or a family member at hand. You can always take them out for a beer to thank them for their help afterwards. But please, for safety, don't embark on large pruning expeditions alone. Remember, Jose is always in the company of his trusted cameraman. And here we can see Jose cutting away. Big branch here. It's important to mention as well that here he's cutting a big branch. We will see later in the video how, when we cut a big branch, they shouldn't be left in the open air. They need to be covered with a healing paste. This is something you will be able to buy easily and cheaply in your local garden centre. We'll see this later in the video, as I said. Jose is just continuing to cut. The healing paste that you buy will cure and protect the cut as if it were a plaster. Okay? If you cut yourself, you clean and protect your wound, don't you? The same thing applies for a tree. Your tree needs the same care and attention as you do. Trees are not really that different from us. Some people say that covering the cut isn't a good idea. That like a wound, if it is covered, it can't breathe and heal as well. This is partly true, although of course, if the wound is big, as in this case, where you can see that Jose has cut a big branch from the tree, it needs to be covered to avoid infection. You can see this in the video. Notice later on how Jose carefully applies this paste over the affected area. Now he's just showing the area of the cut, the wound as we say. And he's preparing this to cover with the healing paste. As mentioned before, easy to buy, very affordable.
voy a utilizar esta pasta cicatrizante de Fertiberia, que es una pasta cicatrizante bastante económica. Este bote es de 1 kilo y me ha costado aproximadamente 10 euros.
Just opening the tub
Como
there.
podéis ver,
Look at that,
la
all
pasta
nice and
es una
gooey.
especie de pasta de color grisáceo,
Perfect for covering our
bastante
tree wound,
blandita,
for avoiding
y
those
la voy a
unwanted
aplicar
infections.
con un pincel, ¿vale? Un pincel cualquiera que esté limpio, que dediquemos solamente para este uso. La forma de
Almost like
aplicarla
artwork, isn't it?
será cubriendo bien toda la zona
He
de la
seems to be
herida, no
enjoying it.
solamente la parte central, sino también los bordes, igual que si estuviésemos
So
poniéndonos
yeah,
una
he's just
tirita
covering that
o
area
una gasa con un esparadrapo curando una herida nosotros
generously,
mismos, ¿vale? Hay mucha
but
gente
gently at the same
que
time.
difiere entre si se usa o no se usa masilla o pasta cicatrizante a la hora de
This
cubrir
will
la herida de
avoid
un
the
árbol.
tree having
Hay
any
gente que
problems,
dice que al igual
any
que las
further
heridas
damage,
que
any
nos
further
hacemos las
infection.
personas, si están al aire libre, cicatrizan mejor. Y esto es
If
cierto,
this piece of
pero
advice
también
is
es
too
cierto que
late,
si la herida es muy
your
grande
tree may have
y
wounds
está
that have
mucho
developed
tiempo
gummosis.
expuesta al aire libre,
This is a type of
al igual que nos
gelatine
sucede a
or
nosotros,
resin
la herida se
with an
puede
amber
infectar.
colour that
Por
you
lo
will
tanto, si
find near
fuese
the
un
wound.
corte muy pequeño,
But don't
una
worry,
rama
there's also a
pequeña, como
solution
por
for
ejemplo
that,
podría
which
ser
Jose will explain
esta
and
rama
show
de
later
arriba,
in the video.
probablemente dejaría el corte sin cubrir con pasta y en un día o 2 días estaría prácticamente cerrado del todo. Al ser una herida tan grande como esta, es mejor asegurarse de que el árbol no queda expuesto a la entrada de infecciones. Así que esta parte la dejaríamos cubierta y vamos a cubrir el otro corte. En este tipo de operaciones es bueno que seáis meticulosos y que intentéis dejarlo lo mejor posible, ya que es una garantía para la salud de nuestro árbol. Una vez que tenemos cubierto todo el corte, lo dejamos secar y en unos días nuestro árbol empezará a cicatrizar con normalidad.
Here you can see an example of what we were talking about before. We can see an area of the tree that has developed gummosis. As explained before, the type of gelatine or resin with an amber colour, this is basically a wound in the tree that has not properly been looked after. Don't worry, there is a solution here. As you can see, Jose in the video, you need to scratch the scab of the wound until you get to the healthy part of the branch. That's what he's doing here. He's basically scratching and removing the scab until he gets to the healthy part
vamos a aplicar un
of the
mastic,
bark.
la misma masilla cicatrizante en la herida. Al limpiar esta costra, lo que haremos será sanear la herida.
And here maybe a little bit of patience is required.
Y esta herida que estamos generando ahora al descubrir la parte por la que exudó la goma al árbol, la vamos a cubrir con la masilla para que cicatrice de una forma correcta. Es recomendable que siempre que veáis
So
este
Jose
tipo
is
de heridas,
scratching
no
away there,
esperéis a que cicatrice, como me ha pasado a mí
removing
aquí,
those
y que
unwanted
cuando
areas,
tiene
diseased
la
areas.
exudación de la goma, la retiréis pues con la mano, con un paño mojado, con una
And what he's
esponja,
going to do is he's going to cover
en
the
ese
wound with
momento
the same
apliquéis la
healing
masilla para
paste
que
that we
cicatrice
mentioned
lo antes
before,
posible.
so it
Como
can
veis, el
recover
interior
properly.
del
So
árbol
the
está
same
sano,
healing
por lo que
paste
hemos
that you
cogido
use
a
just
tiempo
right
este
after the
problema.
cuttage, after the
Si
cut,
dejamos pasar el
the
tiempo,
same
se podría
as we
extender
said
y
before,
podríamos
like a
acabar
plaster on
teniendo
a
un problema
cut.
mucho más serio en nuestro árbol.
Here, Jose
Una
has
vez que
removed
hemos
the
hecho
infected
la
part
limpieza,
and he's going to use that same healing paste.
Volvemos a utilizar la masilla.
This will stop the
Y
development
al
of
igual que
disease or
antes,
fungus.
cubrimos la herida completamente.
And you need to spread the paste
Realmente
generously
esto
and
sería
make sure
igual
you
que pintar.
reapply it in the
No
following
es nada
days,
difícil.
especially
Lo
if
único que
anything has
tenemos que
happened, if it's been
asegurarnos
raining or
es
anything
que
has taken
quede
place that
cubierta
could leave the
completamente
tree
toda la
without
herida.
protection.
Debéis tener cuidado porque esta masilla, al cicatrizar, impide cualquier tipo de brotación. Si aquí
So,
tuviésemos un
wow,
brote
it's not so
y
difficult
lo
to look after a
pintásemos,
cherry
ese
tree in the end,
brote
is it?
automáticamente
Look at the
se
size
moriría.
of the branch that Jose has cut. It's bigger than him.
Y ahora sí,
I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and you
este
found the
último
advice
consejo,
really useful.
ya
Now to
tenéis todas
enjoy
las
growing
claves
your cherry
para que
trees
vuestros
and most of
cerezos
all, enjoy those cherries.
prosperen en vuestra huerta o
If you
jardín
like this
y
video,
tengáis
leave a
unas
comment,
cerezas
share it with your
cojonudísimas.
friends. And if you want to see Jose working in his garden
Bueno,
in
y
original
ahora sí que
version,
ya doy por
look at the links
finalizado
he's
el
left
vídeo
in
de
the
cómo
description of this
realizar la
video.
poda del
You can
cerezo
practice your
y
Spanish
además
and
de
learn more
cómo
gardening skills at
escalonar
the
o
same
cómo
time.
rebajar la altura de un
Thank you
árbol para
everybody,
tener la
bye
fruta
bye.
más
es el plaf, tío.
Tenía que suceder.
Que tras las baldosas de mármol creciera la semilla que yo he plantado de mi árbol. El cuidado de la naturaleza será por algo. Contaminan el planeta que yo salgo. Los días oscuros se van con el sol radiante. Cultivo algo puro, no entiendo de conservantes. Comida en abundancia pero con toque exquisito. Ponte otro vídeo pa' que abras el apetito. Qué delito tiene un tipo que baila bajo la lluvia, haciendo florecer la tierra de los paisajes de Asturias. A mí que me gusta el fútbol, vivo abonado a estos campos. Con el canto del gallo me levanto. Laderas del naranjo. Pudo suceder que no sea todo artificio. No se hagas con dinero, sí con sudor sacrificio. Caerán las frutas que con la mano acaricio. Me dejó la piel, tirarla sería un desperdicio, bro.